Welcome to our discussion tonight. So, this is something kind of new on this channel. So, if you've been watching this channel, you probably have not seen this on this channel, but tonight we're going to be talking about relationships in 2026. And it's just a mature conversation between women from a woman's perspective. So today we have Telly CEO. She is a content creator here. And we also have Coach Nina Monica here. And these ladies are going to be speaking on this panel and just giving us some insight because I've been hearing a lot of things about relationships and differences. And, so we want to know, women want to know what women think. So, Telly CEO, please introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Smart. Everyone knows me as Telly CEO. I have been a content creator for a little bit over 5 years. I have been married for 10 years. I run a nonprofit organization by the name of Help Me Rose Foundation, and I am super excited to be a part of this panel today.
Okay, so Coach Nina Monica, please introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Coach Nina Monica, and I'm a Christian-based women's coach, transformational coach, and I help this women with aligning their lives with the Word of God. And I also have a nonprofit called Promises of Hope that assists parents, supports parents who have children who have asthma. And I'm not new to social media. I've been around for over 10 years in the coaching business. And I'm excited to have this conversation this evening.
Okay, so where do we start? Like, where do we start? So, the first thing we are going to talk about, I know you've seen on social media 50-50. Like, what is 50-50? There's a lot of relationship experts out there. I'm not going to name any names, but we know a few who have been discussing the topic of 50-50 and what that actually means in a relationship, or what do you think about 50-50? Because people have different thoughts about what 50-50 actually is. So, Nina, we're going to start with you with the 50-50. What do you think about what is 50-50 to you?
That's a good question. What is 50-50? I think we have to bring our full selves to the relationship. And especially coming from a Christian woman's perspective, um, I'm not looking for someone for 50-50. I'm looking for someone 100-100 to be evenly yoked with me and that's ready to walk this walk with me. And we both bring something to the table, and especially if we're aligned with God, we're allowing God to be the third strand in our relationship. So what is 50-50? It's 100-100 because if you bring a half of you, then what is the other half about? If I bring a half of me, what's the other half about? So I'm looking for someone that's 100% in. I'm bringing my 100%, and we will multiply that.
I agree with that because a lot of people, when they say 50-50, I'm trying to see, are you talking financial or are you talking like relationship wise? Because I don't, it's about financials because you have to spend money and take care of each other. But is it about that connection and bringing your whole self? Like you said, yeah, I think that's, a good way to put it. Telly CEO.
I do agree with Nina when it comes to we want 100%. And as she said, we do always want to be equally yoked. But if we're talking about finance, I've never agreed with 50-50 anyway in a relationship leading up to a marriage. When you're in a relationship, marriage is always the goal. Woman was never designed to provide for a man or provide for her household. We were never required from the beginning of time to be the leaders of our household. And now times have changed and the roles have changed. Now the woman want to lead, even if they make more than their husband, they want to lead. But I don't know what a lot of people believe in, but the Bible says that there's order. There's God, there's man, and then there's the woman. And a lot of us don't want to step into that role. I think the role in a relationship should be clear from the beginning. I think because when the roles are not clear, that can create problems, confusion,
Mm-hmm.
and it can
Yeah.
even create a lot of stress. Each person in the relationship, man and woman, has a role. The man's role is to lead, to provide, to protect. And a woman's role has always been to keep the house in order, take care of the children, and support her husband. So now, just because the man's role is to provide, that doesn't mean a wife can't contribute in the household financially. Yes, we can help. Yes, we can give what we can financially, but are we required to go 50-50? Absolutely not. And there is,
Yeah. Because I want to know, like, where exactly did that come from? Is that like some modern
of course,
way of doing things? Because back in the days, our parents, our grandmothers had, 5, 6, 7 kids, sometimes more. And it was the household needs to be taken care of, where there needs to be something done, and you can do it, especially in the home was the woman. Outside, the man was making sure everything was there to be done. So it wasn't like you got to go do this. You got to now the 50-50 part is now you got to go do this. And now you got to go do this, making all these new rules that's non-traditional. And I'm like, wait, I don't know. This is how people are dating and going into relationships now, thinking that what half am I bringing? What half? So what happened when there's children? Like there's no 50-50.
And I agree with that. And I totally, just to piggyback off of what you said, that's how it was biblically, supposed to be. The man is the provider, he's the head of the
Right.
household. And somewhere in the new world, we've become so hyper independent. And I'm not shifting the blame to men, and I'm not.
That could be something.
right.
I think you hit it on the head.
But I definitely think that this world has made us so independent, and we don't need a man, and we don't need this, and we don't need that we don't look at the way that the Bible structured it to be. A lot of times,
Or yeah, I don't want to be submissive, or I
yeah,
don't. I want to be.
they want to
Yeah,
be, and ain't nothing against them, girl. I've lived that's my past. Listen, it is what it is. We've all lived a life.
Right.
However,
I
as
get
I got
it.
into the word, I understood better on what my role was as a woman. My thing is I'm not looking for, and I'm not even gonna say I'm looking for the man. The man looking for me. But I don't want to be connected with anyone who doesn't want to be a leader. Like,
Right. Right.
why do I have to do this? As a matter of
Exactly.
fact, you don't have
right.
to think about none of that stuff. You
Right,
should.
because what do you have to do something with what is going on, like in the
Right.
relationship, where you feel that, you know, it's gonna be left for one or the other. That means somebody's not holding their weight.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
just
I'm sorry not to cut you off. I also think some of that comes from the way we were brought up. A lot of the times we seen our parents struggle on
Right.
their own.
I believe
We were
that.
told numerous times from even older adults, or some of us had parents that say, you don't need a man. You can be independent. So a lot of us were taught to be independent. So now we switch from tradition to where we are now leaning on our own understanding. Okay, so now the thing is that a lot of us grew up without fathers. So we have no respect for the man. A lot of the times it comes
So
from
go
that.
into that a little bit more, because I think
Okay, so
maybe that could be something as well.
yeah, I think it definitely is. It's very hard right now to get a two-parent household, and I'm not shifting the blame on anyone, but it is important right now to have a two-parent household. A daughter needs her dad in her life, and a son needs his father. So a lot of the times, if we grow up without a dad, we don't have that respect. Our dad is the first man that teaches a lot of things. A lot of people that grew up with their dad
Right,
have
because a father should actually be teaching respect. He should be teaching that etiquette to his child, as far as his daughters, what to expect in a man, into the sun as far as respect all around the board.
Mhm.
So that's a thing that I think we may have lost over the years,
We
that
did.
respect and those valuable treasures that we held into relationships. I was just watching something I think last week, and they were talking about how black people, I think, this was kind of specific to black people, but how we used to have other people even come out with us on dates, just in case, or just in case something went wrong if you're going to date, but you don't sleep with a man. And people, this is like far from what people are doing now. So you're going out on a date, with a man, and you have to be respectful and respect yourself. There's no sleeping with the man on a first date. There's no over obsessing or anything like that over a man. You're not flaunting yourself, sexually, like if you are just there for sexual escapades, so to speak. You're basically respecting yourself until he chooses you. So that's what they were saying. And you know, I think that's what a lot of people lost now, because people are just going on dates now. From a lot of what I see, and my girlfriends are saying to me, people are going on dates now, and they are just like moving really fast, and then there's no connection between the two. So it's like you're dating without a purpose. You're
And
Yes.
dating and to
I
see
agree.
what happens.
actually, the Bible doesn't say nothing about having a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It says a husband.
At all. Thank you, Nina. At all. I was about to go there.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I was
and
about
That is true.
and we don't follow that, anymore. And a lot of times we get into this relationship. I had someone ask me recently, how long are you gonna date a guy before you guys start talking about marriage? I said that's one of my first conversations. Are you looking for marriage? Because
Yeah, like
Mhm.
where is this going? Like what is the
yeah, what we doing? I don't need no friends. I
Yeah.
have enough friends. You know,
right?
I want marriage. I want the next step. Let's talk about marriage. How we, how are we connecting? Even what's your spiritual background? Who, what God are you serving? Because if we're not serving the same God, that's not going to work either. I
Hmm.
Yeah.
respect your religious beliefs, but however, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And if you're not willing to serve the same God and pray with me and be the head, then I'm just not interested. And
Right.
that's
Mhm.
And
my
this is
point blank. I set those boundaries from the beginning.
From the
What
yeah,
beginning.
yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because
I
it
also
yeah,
want to piggyback off what Nina said about in the Bible, there were never girlfriend and boyfriend. The daughter, the young lady went from her father's house straight to her husband. And at that time, we weren't really choosing our husbands. That was up to the father. And as you
right.
mentioned, Charlotte, yes, it was
And they
time.
still do that in certain cultures. They still do that in certain
Well, that is
cultures.
our culture. That has always been our culture. We see other people doing sticking to their culture, but the thing is, our culture have been lost. A lot
Yeah.
of us have lost our culture and tradition that we are supposed to be doing. That stopped a long time ago. So now we look at everybody else and thinking that's their culture. That has always been our culture. You live with your father. Your father takes care of you, and you're not supposed to leave your father's house until you find a man or man finds you that can take care of you. Your father will not hand you off traditionally to a man who can't provide. So you wouldn't think, oh, can this man
Right.
provide? It would already be established
Yeah,
that this
it would
man,
be that's what it is. Like that
right.
is no negotiable that the man is gonna provide.
Exactly. And I think the absence of fathers in the household for a lot of us who grew up, I think that's where that message got lost at. Because then, like I think Miss Telly said, that our mothers are telling us, you have to have your own money. You got to be independent. Take care of yourself. Don't lean on no man. Don't rely on no man. Don't do this. Don't do that. And if the men were structured mentally to understand that they're supposed to be the provider before they even go seeking a wife, They're
Right.
supposed to have certain things established. Then we wouldn't even be going through the cycle that we go through, you know? And unfortunately, it took me a while because I didn't grow up in a household with a dad. Even though my grandfather raised me, he raised me to a certain point. And then he passed away when I was a preteen. And then I didn't have a father then moving forward. So I had to learn a lot of mistakes on my own. And I got to this 40 plus year old age to understand my position and my role as a woman. And that
Right.
was going through, learning about God and what God expectations are for my life.
Yeah.
So, if you trust God and you allow him to be the head, then everything else, every other relationship will fall into line as it's supposed to be. So that's what I had to learn, at this big age, because I was definitely independent woman. Oh, girl, you can tell me nothing. I got my own money. I don't need a man. Da, 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 da. And then I had to understand none of that worked. You know why? Because God
Same,
was
yeah.
not the center of it.
Right.
Yes, yes. That's definitely
And
true.
that's why I think people, like, we have to get back to that. And I think without the conversation being started exactly on that, we're gonna be more lost than we are today,
Right.
because we have to, knowledge is, gonna take us further. So if we're just having this discussion, then we could, tell our girlfriends or have a discussion with our daughters, and let them know what is really going on. Because if you're a woman and you've seen all of this stuff and you have not told this to your daughter, what you're doing is she's going to repeat the cycle because
A
she doesn't
cycle.
know what to expect out there. So a lot of us, I think we have a generation disconnect. Like we were saying that basically what used to happen previously to now, we lost it. We got to get that back. We got to get that back, and the only way to do it is to talk about it, discuss it, share things with our daughters. Like we used to have different types of meetups or networks that we could uplift and support. Relationships are just as important, because you see these girls out here now. I know this is you see these girls and these women, and this is just a conversation, but I don't know how, some women are showing their bodies. Some women are, you know, dancing. And I get social media has been, you know, definitely influencing our relationships. So we just have to get back to that. We have to get
And
back to, those old school ways that push us into the modern day, but in a better way. Because social media, we have women twerking, we have daughters and we have granddaughters, and we have, it's going to go down the line where you don't want to see, your whole family line stuck, the father's not in the home because they just didn't know enough. Like it's just, I just think it's some things that we have to discuss, different topics, just to get that information across. Because then they have it's just so much going on in relationships that I see. And I feel like um everybody has, some people are married, some people are looking, dating, and some people, just feel like, they don't know what to do because of what's out there. So we just got to get back to nurturing ourselves when it comes to relationships, and not just looking, at the next woman as this or that. Now I get it, some women, like I said, they're out there twerking, doing this, doing that, you know but that conversation needs to happen with people.
let me just jump in real quick. I know you say you don't want to, sometimes we don't want to point fingers, but as older women, sometimes we need to take accountability. You understand? The older woman is supposed to be teaching the younger woman. But when
Right.
you look, it's no examples anymore. Certain when we grew up, we started off with baggy clothes. Now
I
it's
remember I used to wear baggy clothes,
that's
the
how we
big.
did it.
I
Now,
used to and we were cute with
yeah,
baggy
you see a
clothes.
12-year-old, and sometimes you can't even tell the age. And the
Yeah,
crazy thing is
Right.
that
yeah.
the
It's the
parent
disconnect.
watched them go outside like this.
Yeah,
Right.
young
And,
girls are looking
and
older than
yeah,
us.
and the village is not allowed to speak on it anymore.
Right.
Remember,
Right.
it takes the village to raise a child.
Right.
Now
That village.
everybody wants to fight the village. They'll
Yeah.
fight the village now.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
can't even correct
Yeah, you can't
anymore.
connect the neighbor's child. You can't correct the student, the kid in the school. We can't connect. We can't even connect with our neighbors. Remember how it used to be? Knock knock on the neighbor's door. You say hello, or you're walking up the street and there's a new neighbor. Oh, you just moved in. Now people have like this attitude, this defense against people before you even meet them and actually know them. You hear everybody talking about people all the time, and sometimes they know it's not true. They just have a bad, they just feel like doing that. And it's like, why are we like this? Like, why are some people like this now to the point where we can't even watch the neighbor's child? We can't even, get this kid out the street. I seen a story where somebody was about to get hit by a car. A man came across the street to help the woman, and he got her, and that car would have smacked her and killed her. She turned around and said it was sexual assault. All he did was get her out the street, and it's on video. So I'm like, as people, we just are disconnected.
But I want to say that I think these type of conversations need to happen more with mature women such as ourselves in order to
Right.
relay the message, because I think a lot of time our young girls think because of social media and the representatives of social media that it's okay. This is how I'm gonna get a guy. I'm gonna twerk. I'm gonna meet this one that's gonna ball out and trick on me and this, that, and the third. And I think the message just conveyed that that's what they must do in order to obtain a man
Amen.
with money, a man that's going to pay them attention. But little do they know that's not the type of attention they want. You might get them. You might get them. Don't get me wrong. But how long are you guys going to be able to sustain that? Because
Right.
if you,
Because it's easy, and it's easy to become a baby mama, but the goal is to become a wife.
right,
Right.
You understand? That's the goal.
right,
That's the
But
goal.
nowadays,
And the whole thing is, the goal is to become a wife of a deserving man. Okay.
a
So,
God fearing man,
because you don't want to become a wife to just,
a God fearing man. He has to
right,
fear God, because the relationship leading
a
up to a
family
marriage
man, a
again,
God fearing man.
it's,
Yeah.
it's, it's levels.
and that's
God
another
don't deal,
thing. Not the
God
for people
don't
who
deal with the
men.
women.
And
God
that's
do not
another
deal with
thing.
the women in a marriage. Mhm.
Exactly. And then sometimes people get the rings and it's the ring, but he's not God fearing. He's not able to be a leader. He's not able to put you first. He's not able to put himself first. He's not able
Right.
to take care of
Exactly.
himself. You know how many
Exactly.
rings
That happens a lot every day.
proposals I've had, but they weren't the one because they were not in the right position, for that position. They weren't
Right.
able to, first submit to God before
Right.
anything else. That's why it didn't work out. And not to blame it all on them, but me too, because I should have been more aligned too.
Because the man that they choose, they don't ask questions in the dating phase. So they don't ask questions. They don't know what he really wants. Some of them, we're mature women. Some of them are out there for sex. Some of them are, traumatized or looking for that bad boy or this person that, they're looking for money. It's all sorts of songs and messages out there about, what men these women should be picking. And music, and I'm just going to say, like, just to hear different things and you don't have your mother saying it at home, that's what I'm saying. It's not the music, it's not just the music, it's not just the movies that we do, it's not just you know the area. Your mother has to also speak to you, speak to your young daughters and sons, and tell them what a relationship looks like. Yeah, you may have a relationship that doesn't go to the level you want, or some people may be in relationships that they hate. Okay, we're not going to talk about that right now. But you also have to understand that if it doesn't come from you first, then your daughter may never know what to expect and what she really wants.
I'm just gonna go back to it. You guys might hear me mention God a lot because that's the focus. You cannot choose a man for yourself because God looks at the heart, the inside. What we see is physical. So sometimes we go after these men that's so good looking. He's 6 foot tall. He's this and he's that. And sometimes that's not what we need. Sometimes we think we know what we need,
Right.
but we don't. For me, I was in a relationship for 12 years. No marriage, no ring. That was my situation. And sometimes God put you through things so you can come. And I went and one day and I said, please just send me a husband and I will, you know, and it happened 2 years later.
You
Two
know,
years later,
and to go even deeper on that, because I'm always going to talk about God being involved. We have to also see what's in our bloodline,
Yeah.
generational things. We have to go back. You know, what was the successful marriages in our relationship, you know, in our family? What was the non-successful? What is this on our bloodline that's preventing marriage? Or they get married, then they divorce, or they break up and they cheat and it's abusive. You know, so I think we have to even go deeper than just looking at us, then looking at our mothers, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, you know, and then also, you know, and I'm not going to give a sermon on it, but however, I'm going to say sometimes we got to renounce and denounce those things on our bloodline in order to, you know, for us to be where we need to be in our
Yeah.
own relationship. Sometimes we have to be those generational chain breakers and
yes.
for us to get those things that we deserve because we all deserve it. You know, God
Speak
didn't
on it. Speak
that
on it,
we're
girl.
supposed to
Speak
be
on it.
alone. We're not supposed to be
Mhm.
alone. We're supposed to be a helpmeet to someone. We're supposed to have a group.
Right.
We're not
And
meant
I
to.
Exactly.
think that a lot of people talk about this list, right? You have, you make this list. I want my husband to be this, but you end up taking anyone's. Like I don't really know anyone. I don't have any girlfriends that told me that they actually have a list per se, a specific list, like you know what you're looking for. But I heard that a lot of women do that, but then they still choose whoever. Like I said, you just have to, in my opinion, because um personally, I'm someone who is I'm very picky. I'm very picky when it comes to a man, and I also am not gonna put up with anything. So it feels like, with some of the men that are out here, you would be lowering your standards. So we some of us, what I'm trying to say is some of us don't have standards, or we need a man, we need a man, we need a man. So we pick any man. We pick her man, we pick her man, we pick a man, we go to the club and get a man, we go here and we get a man. But what is that man gonna do for you? Like if you just picking a man without intent
And you're right.
or
I agree with you. And with that being said, that's why I've become more intentional in the past couple of years because I'm not going to say I wasn't guilty of certain things, you know, and that was before I knew who God was and the purpose He had for my life.
and I don't know when the last time I've been to a club.
So,
Just
me either. But however, you know, that was my intentions was like, oh, I'm going to, this man, that man, this is my boo, this is my boo. No, you know, until I realized that's another thing. When you realize your worth and what
yeah.
you're worth and what God put you here for and your
Mhm.
purpose and understand who you are and
Right.
get to know, you know, the purpose for your life that God have for you and that He don't have just mediocre stuff. You're not meant to be mediocre. Then that's when you understand, oh, wait, this isn't what I'm supposed to have. You won't settle. You won't
Right.
settle. Everything that settles at the bottom. You won't settle once you get to know who you are and your self-worth. Then you'll also be open to listening to
Right. And then
God and
also
He'll
what I
let
want to add to that before we go to the next topic, because the next topic we're gonna talk about marriage and what we think about marriage. But you were saying that don't settle. I think if we have better expectation and we learn how to have better expectation as women, we won't settle, because we can't be. Okay, we were talking about the independent woman syndrome a little bit. You can't be so independent till you don't want a man, and you basically or you want a man, you independent, and then you end up settling because you feel you got it all, and then you end up just picking a man that you didn't really, go through to see who he really is, and you basically settle at that point because you thought, he was cute, or he did this or he did that, and you feel like you because some people settle for different reasons. And I feel like sometimes if you don't have that expectation up front to understand exactly what you're looking for, you may settle without even knowing that you just settle and then end up in situations. We know how many women, our girlfriends, are in marriages or dating someone forever, and you feel like, what is going on in this relationship?
Boundaries need to be boundaries. I tell people all the time, sometimes, like my situation before I became married, I settled for years. And at the end of the day, we cannot blame that man, because you have to take accountability. What you settle for is what you get. People do to you what you allow them to do to you, you know? So that's how I feel about that. And just to go back on the independent woman, what a lot of people need to understand as well is there are a lot of independent women out here, a lot of women that even makes more than a man. But even though you make more money than a man, that still doesn't give you that leadership role. You understand? Even if you bring more money home than your man, even though you should not be working harder than your man, but maybe the thing is that maybe you get paid more than him. That does not take away that leadership role, even though on the taxes, it call you the head of household because of the income that you bring in. So we have to have that respect for the men that we're with. That's why it's important to choose a man that can lead you, because he has to lead regardless of if he makes more money than you or less money than you.
That's when we talk about values, the values that we have for our family, the values that we have for our children, the values that we have for our life. And as discussing different religions also have different values that they look into when it comes to dating. Um so we have to get back to that, because sometimes there is no dating in certain religions. There's no dating. You court to marriage. So that's how it is, for a lot of people. So as the young women need to understand, what they need to understand and be taught, the older women should be continuously preaching this to the younger generation. So now we talked and we discussed a lot about, 50-50. I think we went into a couple of topics because that's how, it just happens. You go into these different topics when, it's just so many things wrapped up in one. So we're going to start to talk about marriage, and what does that mean, and what is marriage, what does a good marriage look like, because like I said earlier, there's so many people in marriages, unhappy marriages, so marriages that are just even people have non-existing, like they're separated. And I've seen so many people in marriages, even while they're married, very unhappy, very um what's the word that I'm looking for, hostile to each other. Or I don't, basically I've seen people in marriages, in people are cheating in marriages. Like, it's so many things. Obviously that's some of those, like cheating in a marriage is not a marriage. Okay, cheating in a marriage is not a marriage. But so many things go on in these marriages. What does a marriage look like to you? You're married, Telly CEO. So we're gonna start with you. What does a marriage look like? Your sound is off.
I'm sorry. So
We
yes,
can't
I
hear
think
you. You
I
gotta.
think I touched base on this earlier when we spoke about relationships. My husband from the beginning, is the leader of my household. I believe in what the Bible says. My husband is the leader, and that role comes with trust, because I trust that he won't lead me off the cliff. I trust that he won't lead me astray. So again, this is why it's very important, the person that we choose, we have to trust that person,
Mm-hmm.
because you're putting your life in
Right.
that person, in that person's hand, and your children's life. You know, and certain things, like you said before, Charlene, we have to learn about men before we get with them. We have to know them when they're happy, angry, sad, how they work under stress, under pressure.
Right.
So these things, we cannot learn these things years and after we married them. So it's important to ask those questions, pay attention, pay less pay less attention to the character, to the words, and pay more attention to the character. I think marriage is very serious. It's nothing to rush into. A good marriage will help you grow, and you're going to learn things about yourself that you probably never knew. You know, in a marriage, I've learned different ways that I can keep the peace, and one of them is learning how to be quiet. And some women may say, well, that's negative because you can't even speak freely in your own marriage. And I've learned that's not the case. Now I've learned self control, and I approach the situation with wisdom. You know, I've also learned that it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. Sometimes we can, as women, we were designed to be gentle, soft spoken, especially to our husbands. Some of us are blatantly disrespectful. I've seen it. And,
Yeah, I've also heard envious of their wives. Like I could go on and on, but I mean, I certain things
I think that's
envious,
weird. That is
jealous,
just weird.
rude,
That is just weird.
overbearing. So it's a lot of things that people deal with in marriages.
If a woman has an envious or overbearing husband, 90% of the time she knew that before they got married. So again, we can blame the husband, but as wives and women, accountability is very important. Accountability is
So, do you
very
think
important.
there's a difference between control and leadership in a marriage? Like, per se,
It
like
depends on your
your husband
mindset.
is being
You
controlling
lead,
or your husband is being a leader?
it depends on your mindset. To lead, you have to have control. To lead, you have to have control. So it depends on the mindset that you have in your marriage. Because if I put something on and my husband say, that's too tight, I don't think you should wear that. Another woman might say, oh no, he's telling you what to do. Me, I'm taking it off. You have to have that respect. You understand? The thing is that we are losing respect for our husbands.
But I think most of the time, too, if your man has to tell you to take something off, you probably knew you shouldn't have wore that, or like, how do you, dress? But that's a different thing. But how
Some
do you,
people,
you dress that now
um,
you're wearing, maybe too
modesty should
revealing, but
always be a thing. Modesty should always be a thing in a marriage. To me, modesty should always be a thing. Because again, we're going to go back to the Bible that said, don't allow men to lust.
right.
And when we dress half naked, the first thing we do when we put on a pair of jeans, when we look in the mirror, what do? We turn around and look at what? Exactly. So when we turn around to look at our behinds, when we turn around to look at our behinds, we know when we go outside, that's what's going to happen. So it's the mindset now that you have.
So are more women looking to be married or don't? What do you think? Are more, like, in your opinion and what you see, are more women looking to be married, or does it look like marriages are definitely slowing down?
Marriage, in my opinion, has slowed down. And I'm just saying that from the circle of friends that I have. A lot of times when I'm like, no, I want to be married, a husband, They're like, I'm not ready for marriage. I'm just gonna date. I'm gonna see what this is about. I don't have time to see what this is about. If we don't know what it's 9 times out of 10, a man knows his intentions with you the first day he lay eyes on you. And I have brothers, I have uncles, I have cousins that say that they knew when they met their wife, that's who they wanted to be with, and that's how it stayed. There's also men that told me, oh, when I met her, I knew this was gonna be quick and easy, boom, boom, and this is what it was gonna be. So I think it has slowed down, and I think that's also because of what the world has put out there. Marriage is not a thing. This is a
But
corny.
they make it seem so easy now. So to me, that's the difference. Like, how is it so easy to just hop into dating to marriage? How do you get there from not even knowing a person or thinking somebody is cute to, a little bit down the line, maybe a couple of months, and you want to get married and you don't know anything. I'm not saying that it's certain point, but it just seems like it's so much easier for these things now. People are not valuing what it really is, and they're playing this role, and then it gets to this point, and it's like, wait, what role am I playing? What, like, this is it's crazy because you have to put more into it for it to actually be something. So the people that did the work, I could see, moving forward, doing the work and moving forward into, a stronger relationship or an actual marriage. But if you playing and, some people get mad, you posting this or that, listen, or even around people, it's more like, it's not real. It's not real if you're not putting anything of substance. Nothing is. If you're not just marriage, but if you're playing around, it's just like, and a lot of people do that. A lot of men do it. A lot of women do it. They try to get this man. Oh, he has this. I'm gonna get this, or he has that, or I'm gonna do this, or the man, the same thing. I'm gonna be able. They say how some men go from here to there to there, or do certain things as far as like, um, you know, play women, whatever we've been hearing this term. It was a player, he's whatever, it's so many different things because that's what they're doing, they're playing. And so people think, that is not really, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. Like, they have the things out there with these women are married, or and then, or even in a relationship, and the women are, side pieces. So who wants that? Like, who wants?
Some people want that. Some women
Some
want
people
that.
want that. That's what I'm saying. But that particular person or that particular style of dating is not for me. So I'm just saying, when I see that, I don't believe that. I don't believe everything that, everybody says, everything I see on social media, because I feel like, where's the value? Where's the true substance? Show me something. Show me the true value, because people can pretend very well, or people can be in so situations and just day to day. No, this is so I mean, to each his own. Whatever you want to do, that's what you do. But if you feel like, because there's no substance there, is no, I think a lot of people are missing substance in marriages now, is what I'm saying, versus back in the days when it was, we have this whole family, we have this together, we're building something together, we're actually doing something that's productive in life. Those things, like, do you want to be in a marriage? Anyone wouldn't want to be in a marriage if, for whatever amount of time where nothing is going on. Like, you want to build in a marriage. So for me, I feel like, that's, I want to see substance and value.
Nina spoke on it earlier about going in with intention. So a lot of these marriages are not working because a lot of us don't know the intention in the beginning. You might marry someone that don't want to give what you want to give emotionally. You have women that say, I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning. If you're not making six figures, we can't date, we can't marry. And then you have the men that make six figures that says, if you're not cooking and cleaning, I don't want you. So it's not aligning. You understand? Now I'm going to go back to stepping
What's
out
the
that role.
value?
Stepping out that role, we have to accept our roles. Now, if you don't want to cook and clean, I'm not knocking anybody, but that has always been our role. The man has always been a provider again, and we have a role. So now a lot of people are going into situationships. Now it's a lot more picks out here
So what
because
do
you have
we tell our daughters? Nina has a daughter, you have a daughter, I have a daughter. It's just a random question, but what do we tell our daughters about marriage?
my daughter cannot date and she's 20, she's 21. She's 21, she's still a virgin.
That's a
And I
blessing.
think that is very important and very rare out here in this world.
No, that's very rare, absolutely. And me having a daughter who's 22 years old, she is a mom, and she does have a person that she's been dating since she was 15. But I do stress the point of that you guys should look at marriage. I
That's
do.
important.
I definitely speak that into their conversations. Is that marriage is important, and it's to be right with God first of all before anything. And if she was in the room, she would tell you. My mom always telling me we need to get married.
And all you can do is tell her because at a certain age, we can't make them.
Yeah, I do have to commend her on being with the same person for all these years, you know.
Right.
However, you know, let's talk about marriage now. You guys have a family now. Let's talk about marriage because that's the
Right.
step. And you don't want to die in your sin. That's just as simple as that. And I tell her that I have to be straight up the truth with her about that.
Right,
You want to die in your sin, honey. You know, if you guys are not talking about getting married, then what you talking about? You don't
right.
want to be a 15-year girlfriend. That's not biblical. That's not what God have for you. You know, it's time.
Yeah, and I tell my daughter the same thing as far as marriage goes. You don't want to date and date. You want a man that respects you. You want a man that is showing you some value. Because if he can't show you no value, then he's probably a time waster. So you don't want to do that, and you do want to look at marriage. Like, you don't want to date, you want to look at marriage and make that a focal point in your relationships. Don't ever feel like you have to just quote unquote want a man. So she, she's in a long-term relationship, and but I just put that in her, in her mind all the time about, value and just thinking about don't follow these new ways. Because I remember, I did an etiquette class a couple of years ago for some young women, and we were there. We gave them, we did a whole, um, basically a class, a session with them, and it was a back to school session. But the main point was the etiquette to share with young girls about how to respect themselves. So respect yourselves, and that's when love and hip hop was really strong. And I don't have nothing against love and hip hop because it's entertainment, is adult entertainment. But you see a lot of young girls, their moms are sitting there with them watching these shows, and it's nothing wrong. So they come to school doing these things and acting like one of the people from there. Now they're getting a check. This is part of their job and part of their image. You don't really know what's going on. You don't need to act like these people on the TV who are throwing glasses across the table, and you just disrespecting yourself, or sleeping with this man to this man and shaking the table and everything like that. You want to have respect for yourself. So, I told them that they all got certificates, and it was really, a nice session. And it was something, for back to school. I'm like, you're going back to school. Take these little nuggets with you so that you could actually, and their mothers were more happy than they were. Like, I'm so glad they got into your session, because I try to tell them, but they sometimes need to reinforce some of this information, as other adult women that they see and look up to. They need to, to hear some reinforcement rather than just seeing that on TV and they follow. So, tell the young girls as well, like marriage, a man, wants you to be respect yourself. I don't feel like, I just feel like I should say that if you're not respecting yourself, it's something else going on, with that. Um, Sometimes we don't look from within, and that's another thing. Are you ready to go into marriage when you're not even focused on yourself, and like really, really come to the marriage like we was talking about, with 50-50? So really come to the marriage with your whole self and your plan of and intentions.
I was going to go there and you went there for me. I was going to go there. I think there's a preparation stage for yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, because when I say physically, meaning eating healthy, getting your body in shape for you, not for what the man is, but for what you want you to look like. If you're happy with how you are, that's
Yeah,
fine.
and that's another.
Yourself together spiritually, get to know God for yourself, get to know, go to the doctor, go work on your teeth, do what you need to do for you and
I
prepare
was
you.
in the doctor's office yesterday with my
Yeah,
son and telling him, because he's young too, and
uh-huh.
so I was in the doctor's office with him and just telling him about all of that.
Yeah, prepare yourself, so that when the time comes, you're prepared, you're emotionally stable.
Right.
Go to therapy because you may have some trauma that you don't even realize from your
Yes.
past,
Yes.
daddy issues, mommy issues, whatever issue. Go get yourself, go heal, baby. And then then you'll be prepared. Preparing, this preparation, that's like, and I'm like I said, I'm not gonna go into a Bible lesson again, but like Esther prepared herself for 1 year before she got her king.
Yes.
Like go into preparation before you do that. Get your finances in order. What your bank account look like, what your credit score look like. Like what that look like for
That's
you.
it.
That's to make you feel good, not just for your husband,
That's
because he's
it.
supposed to come
That's true.
prepared as the head of the household. But however, you want to know you is good. Because I'm not even saying that he'll leave you, but God forbid he passes away. God forbid he passes away. You want to make sure you're straight in those
Right.
areas, so that you will be good for you. My fiance passed away 2023. I think
Oh my
Charlene knows
God.
this.
I'm
Yeah.
2023,
sorry to hear
fiance
that.
passed away. We was preparing for all of these things. And so when I did start going back out to date, I was kind of straight on the preparation stage, except for emotionally, getting over
And
that was
getting
rough.
yourself.
But however, I knew my intentions and what I wanted because I had fell for crap before him. Before my fiance came along, he showed me a whole different world. I had fell for all types of whoop de whoop that we ain't even gonna talk about on this show. That's for another show. You know what I'm saying? Because I fell. I'm not coming here with all of this thing that I was the perfect woman. Never was. Never was. I'm speaking from experience on how I got from there to here.
There is no perfect
Yeah.
person image.
But I prepared me, and I'm still preparing myself. I have a person. I still prepare myself.
It's
I'm
perfect
still
for
good.
you. What's
Yeah.
what's perfect is what's perfect for you.
I agree. And I also want to piggyback off getting yourself right before coming into these relationships or marriages. Um, I went through so much emotionally in my marriage because sometimes as a wife, you don't know, or we don't know how much damage we cause to the men that love us. When we get upset, we get very emotional, and we say things in disagreements that we can't take back. And sometimes we say things out of anger. And then when everything is over, you can't take that back. So I
And I'm
learned
I'm kind of I get that, because my mouth. You said learn how to, um in a
be quiet.
marriage, say what you want, but learn how to shut up, I guess, a little bit,
Yes,
like,
yes,
because I
that's
know,
very
like,
important.
through my years, like I would, I can say certain things, to whoever. I could say certain things, and I just learned that. I really learned that, like, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be, certain ways.
It
Like if
doesn't.
I'm going to, um, like arguments just can get, go crazy. So I
Out of hand.
understand that.
I'm definitely can agree with that because
Out of
me,
hand.
ooh, I have to go ahead
And
and flip
a
it.
lot of people, what's that saying? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me is one of the biggest lies.
That was a
One of
lie.
the
Yeah,
biggest
that we learned as a kid.
That
one
was
of
a
the
lie.
biggest lies ever told.
Yeah,
Because
it do words
remember, the
strong.
tongue is very powerful.
It is.
Your tongue is very
It is.
powerful.
It is.
It can
Make or
it
break.
can build you, it
Yeah.
can build your man, or it can destroy him.
Yep.
And sometimes we say things to a person we love and we don't realize the damage
Yes.
those words cause.
Yep.
And we have to understand that words can leave deep wounds
Yes.
that take a very long time to heal.
Yeah, if you don't watch your
Understand?
mouth,
So I've
you could
learned,
say a
even
lot of
in
things.
anger, to choose my words very wisely. Some women, as women, we don't realize how much power our words carry to the men that love us.
And
We
you know,
don't always,
go ahead.
we always say things, and some days, if I see my husband feeling down, because of the pressure life brings, or him just working hard because he works hard for me and our daughter. So sometimes when I see that, and I go to him and I say, and he's just sitting there with his head down, I say, King, pick your head up, and I remind him who he is. And instantly I just see that fire comes
Right.
back into him, and he goes right back and do what he needs to do.
Right.
So, like I already said, the man that you choose has to be God fearing. And if he is, and if God chose that man for you, you have to be very careful how you treat that man.
Yes. Yes.
You have to be careful how you treat that man. And a lot of people don't understand that God has to be in the midst. And like I say all the time, I don't know what's everyone's belief, and I'm not here to force anything on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But God has to be in the midst of your marriage, in the midst of your relationship, leading up to your marriage
Yes.
for it to work. And
And I think
let me just say
that's
that if your man and your husband believe in God, don't worry about him providing, because God is going to find a way for that man to provide for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
yes.
Tony.
Yeah, and I think that's the value, that's part of the value that we miss. Like when you're saying God has to be into your relationship, we're missing that. A lot of us grew up with our grandparents in the
Mhm.
church. We forgot all of that. Some of us, I mean, I don't really go to church anymore, but some of us, we don't think about none of that when it comes to our relationship. We'll be listening to, man and God, not God. What I'm saying is the street and the outside and society before we listen to what we learned and the values that was instilled in us when we're looking or dealing with the man. So that's, I think that's a big deal that is kind of missed within that connection is just disconnection with God, because people don't really want to say, oh, I don't think everybody's not comfortable to the point where they're shouting out, the Bible.
I
If
am.
you if you miss if you're not,
I am.
then yeah. I mean, but it's a lot of people that's not. It's a lot of people that's not.
I get it.
I
I understand.
I'm a Bible person. I'm a Christian for sure, and I'm just saying. But you don't hear people ever mention it, although they stand between with
True.
the pastor when they're getting married. They stand with the pastor, man and wife, all of this. But where's God when they leave that altar?
Come on.
Well, I
That's
think it's in some
love to
marriages.
So because
pray.
they're not comfortable,
Yeah.
and then you
God
ask
must
them
be
who was
at their
comfortable at that altar,
yeah.
but
Because
you
the world
never
makes
was
them uncomfortable.
comfortable. That's
I
why I
think the
said
world makes
before the
them uncomfortable.
marriage, you never was comfortable even thinking about that. So you say, I am, and this person says, I am too. I am. But then when you leave the altar, is no God, is no value. So, I say it as value, but God is value. But, these things we miss and we take out of our relationships and we forget where it all started from.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely true. I also want to touch on this because I feel like I see this a lot. Another thing that I want to mention is bringing your problems in your marriage or your relationship to social media.
That's a
Okay.
big one.
That's a big deal because a lot of outside voices can truly damage your marriage. And that's why I tell people stop taking your marriage issues to social media because we have to keep in mind that evil communication will tear your marriage down. Everyone, even friends and family, everyone that you go speak to about your marriage is not there to protect your marriage. So even our
That's a
relationship,
big one. And you are right about that.
we have to
I
be
see
careful.
People
that
feed.
daily.
People feed off of what you put on
Like,
social media. And I've learned that the hard way. Like I said, that was who I was before. People feed off of that. Oh, look, this is entertainment. Nina's having a problem in her relationship.
Yes. And they
Oh,
love
and broke up. Oh, come, come, come. There's even women that will be sneaky and go try to comfort the man in the midst of y'all because they always had their eye
right.
on him.
girl,
So
as soon as you throw him in the garbage, if
yeah.
you think they're gonna throw your man in the garbage, they're at the garbage can waiting
Exactly. Wait, and that's
to pick him
crazy
up
that it happens like that.
and bring
It
him
does.
in.
They clean them up. The cleanup woman.
Yes, yes, clean him up.
Yeah.
Yes, you are right. And like I was saying, it's a lot of opinions, and those outside opinions and those outside noises, they can cause confusion in your marriage and bring separation. So I've learned as well that a good marriage, no marriage is perfect, but a good marriage takes a lot of communication. And some days your husband and you are going to have those uncomfortable conversations, whether it's about finance or whatever it is. In a marriage, it has to be a lot of respect, a lot of patience, a lot of communication. And I'm speaking on what I've learned. No one taught me about marriage. Growing up, I haven't seen a lot of healthy marriages.
And
You know,
it's funny you say that because I once was married. I once had a husband, and I think if I would have took some of these tools, maybe or maybe not, who knows? But only God knows. But even maybe we would not have even gotten married because I would have known everything that I know now, and we wouldn't have even went into it like that. I feel like we rushed into it because society was pressuring us. All of our friends around us was getting married. That was the trend. And then when things didn't work out, he would take it to social media. So I see his post and I'm like, oh, watch this. Oh, yeah, this is that. And it did not work out. We wound up, finally into divorce. And we're great friends now. However, I think that we were young, we didn't make the right decisions, and we didn't put God first. We didn't consult God on that marriage. We didn't go to God about should we even get married. So that's why I said, you know what, I got to do something different for myself, this time around.
take your time, girl. Take your time. There's no rush to, you know, as women, I feel like you do have some women that really don't want marriage. But I'm starting to think even some women that say they don't want marriage, because if you find a good man that is willing to give you emotionally what you need, take care of you, provide, protect, lead you in the right direction, what woman don't want that?
I got to say, my person wants marriage. So I'm so glad that I
That's a
found
good thing.
somebody who wants marriage because that was my thing. Like, do you believe in God, the Lord Jesus Christ, and is the goal marriage? And that's one thing I have to say is that, my person, our conversation was marriage. So I know in the future when we're both more locked in and ready, because I've been through so much trauma in these past couple years, where I kind of put the pause, like, you know what, let's see what God say first, And there's certain things I want Him to step up in, and there's certain things I need to step up in before we say, you know what, this is it, we locked in. But however, my person, he's great, and I gotta say that, marriage is the goal, and that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put me first before I put everything. And I got to know me and what God expectations was for me. Because like I said, God has to be the first. And then everything else will fall into place. He will put the right person in your life, that he have for you. And then everything else will fall into line. You won't even have to say, you got to go get a job. You got to go do this. You got to be the head. God will make sure of that if you're leading from God and then allowing God to fill in all the other spaces.
Yes, and what I've learned also is, ladies, don't get me wrong. Yes, your man is supposed to be the provider, but we need to give a little bit of grace sometimes. And I'm gonna say this when
Yeah,
I first
explain that. Explain that.
because when I first met my husband, sometimes when you love someone, and sometimes a man needs one person to believe in him. And if that one person is his wife, things can change. Because I used to work 14 hours a day when I first got with my husband. We were together 2 years before we got married, and we've been together 12 years, married 10. And at first, you know, he wasn't where he is now financially. But I believed in him and I gave him grace. Because when I first met him, he wasn't where he is now financially, or praise it to the most high. And but I gave him grace and I believed in him, when we stuck through it. And 5 years ago, he called me at work and said, "You don't have to work anymore. I got us. I want you to start your own business and work from home." And if you would have told me this when I first met him, I would have laughed, because he wasn't established like he is now. You know, they say, you know, a man loves you when he becomes financially well off. Sometimes when we stick with these men that are not financially well off in the beginning, but they have to still be a good man and a good leader and try hard. Because you can't say you're going to do this and do that and you're just laying down all day. That's a red flag. So, I shouldn't be going to do things for you. You should be getting up, trying to provide regardless. I don't care if you go get a job for $9.75. It's better than no job. And I've watched my husband work his way up. And that's where grace come in. We can't just say, "Oh, if you don't make six figures from the front, I'm not dealing with you." Because some of them don't make six figures, and it is hard for some men to get a job. Because a lot of times we forget that the system was designed a certain way.
I think that's a whole nother conversation too.
It
The way,
is. It
with the
is. I'm not
men
even.
and
It is.
financials, because I think men definitely have a soft spot when it comes to their family and financials. Some men will basically hide or retreat, I believe, if they can't provide. So the man that does have the financial capability, at some point, maybe they went through this, of course they're going to feel more confident, at that point, because they're able to do for their family. But if they're not, at that point, or money is a big topic in the household. So that's why I said that's kind of another topic overall that I think we could probably get into for another session, because that right there can determine a lot of how that relationship is going to go. Because if you can control the, you can control the money, you probably can control the household regardless. Because that's how it happened with stay at home mom, and it is some stay at home dads, or the man is making more, the woman is making more, and that itself, those things with everything else being perfect, is going to lead to something in the direction of that relationship. As I feel that, like, it's just going to take the relationship to another place. So, with that, it's like that's a deeper conversation that we can have later too. So, you know, that leads us into talking about um work life balance. Now, I did a podcast. I started a podcast over a year ago, and I did a couple of episodes up there. One of the things I talked about was work life balance. And I also, I did a lot of research on that and read about it. Like the only woman, and I might have to go research that again, this only women CEO that was for Coca-Cola. She was discussing some things, and she was talking about work life balance, because the role that she plays, basically, she did everything. She was like the CEO. She had a handful, and she also had a family. So we're going to start with Nina, and we're going to talk about what work life balance means to you in 2026, because I know it's changing. So that's the thing. Even what she said, I think a couple of years ago, it might be different now. I don't know. We have artificial intelligence, new positions, remote work. I don't even think remote work was out when I read her article, because I think this was pre-pandemic. But Nina, let's start with you and tell me what you think about that.
Work life balance. So that's a hard one. You know why? Because, especially, let's say I'm going to come from a single woman's perspective. You're working, you're taking care of your family, you may run a business, you may be into extracurricular activities such as the PTA, you may be doing volunteer work in the community, all of these things. And then here you go trying to build a relationship. So you have to know what to, and I had to do this when I got with my person. I had to do this. I had to weigh what was more important. I had to let go of some of my volunteer activities, not all the way, but I had to like say, this is, I want to build with this person. So I have to make time for them. I have
Mm-hmm.
to say, babe, Wednesday nights we going out to eat. You know, Sunday after church we going to brunch together. You have to make time in your schedule for that person. And I'm still working two jobs and running a business and a mom, okay? And a grandmother, okay? So, and I still, volunteer here and there, but however, I still make sure that my person, because if they feel like everything is before them, then guess what? They're gonna assume you're not interested. They're gonna assume that you don't have time to fit them into your busy schedule. So I think it's very important that you make time for that person that you're looking to build with. Setting a certain day, because they may have a job too. My person has a job. They have a job too. So they have a household and children too that they have to take care of. But we come to a mutual agreement of these 2 days out of the week is dedicated to us until God see where we put everything together, until we are bridging our families and our lives together. And I make sure that I'm very big on quality time. That's something he found out. And our first few months was kind of rough because I was like, yeah, I'm not seeing you. I need to see you. I need to spend time with you. I need to know what you like or dislike. I need to know what's your favorite food. Do you like sports? Do you not like sports? What are you into? I need to know what's your favorite color. I need to be able to surprise you sometimes because it's not just ladies, men are not just supposed to bring the gifts. We're supposed to bring something to just say, I'm thinking about you, and that's what I like to do for my person. So, with that being said, I ensure that I make time and we stress it, that we have to make time for one another. Or what are we doing this for? Just to say that we have a man or a woman or a fiance or, like,
Right.
what are we doing that for? You have to make time for your person. You have to balance that out. Or maybe you're just not ready right now. And see, the thing is, and Miss Telly said a great thing. You kind of have to be patient. It got to the point where her husband said, "Forget about your job. You can work your business." and you won't know that until you spend time and get to know that person, where me and my girlfriends was talking in the office the other day, and they were, saying what they were saying, and I was like, no, I want to be a at home wife. I want to run my business, and I desire to do that. I want to have the dinner ready. I want to go pick the baby up from school and let him lead. I do. That's my desire. I'm like, Lord bless me. That's what I want for me. I want to be able to do that. But
Yeah,
and
some people want to be included in family activities.
And that's another thing I do. If I'm doing something with the kids, I'm gonna say, "Hey, we're going to the museum. Do you want to come? Doing this so that they can be included because they know my children." But I just want to ensure that they feel secure with me and they feel appreciated and loved and thought about. So I have to make sure that I make time for my person.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I do too.
Like you said, Nina, life is crazy. And I feel like it feels more busy today in these days than it has ever felt. I feel like during the day, time just zooms by. Sometimes I'm like, wow, has it been 8 hours already? So a lot of the
Yeah,
time,
the day goes by so fast.
and a lot of us are working, we're moving around, we're focused on making money. Even when we stop working, sometimes it feels like, even if you work a 9 to 5 or you work from home, it just still feels like work follows you.
Right,
It follows you home.
right.
Our phones is ringing, our messages are coming in, and the stress just don't stop. And because of this, sometimes family time can slowly start to disappear without you even realizing it. So I've learned that we just have to find that balance and learn how to protect our time. And one way I balance is by communicating with my husband. When I feel like things are getting a little bit out of control, which sometimes it does, I'll talk to my husband and we'll just adjust our schedules. And especially on the days I feel overwhelmed, because that can happen a lot, and I need that moment to breathe. Sometimes I just need that moment and I let him know how I'm feeling, because if I don't take that time, we both can burn ourselves out, you know? And when that happens, we're not good for work and we're not good at home, and it throws us off mentally. And
Yeah,
that can happen to anyone. And having me time to me is important, you know, even if it's just a little bit of time to sit quietly and just breathe.
yeah.
I need that time. And I also, another thing I do is when I wake up, I try to get up early. I try all the time. I also try to keep a mental schedule when I wake up in the morning. I think about what needs to be done for the day, and I try to stick to that plan, you know? And I start my day, like I said, a little early so I can finish important things first. And whatever I can't get to that day, sometimes I just can't get it done because I can't get everything done every day, you know?
No,
So,
it's
And I think setting boundaries is important too. I've
yes,
learned big time to stop taking work home. When
yes.
I turn off my computer at work, and I had to tell one of my best friends that because she was like, "Yeah, I found myself answering the phone for one of my clients on the weekend." I said, "Not me. It shut off until Monday. I'm sorry you're going through a crisis on the weekend, but however, I clocked out at 5. I give them a grace period before I turn my phone off. I give them to 6. I give them to 6. I be like, because
right.
I'm traveling home for work at 6, so hey, I can talk to you for a second. But after 6 p.m., my phone is not open again until 9 a.m. on Monday. I set my thing. I had to set boundaries because I felt myself. You know what happened? One of my clients went to a crisis on a Saturday,
Okay.
and I answered my phone to them. Okay, my
Hmm.
daughter said to me, "Mommy, they get you Monday through Friday. Can I have you on Saturday?"
Oh, wow.
And that struck me. So now I set the timer on my phone. No, you can't have me on the weekends. No. And we have to set those boundaries, in place, because a lot of times when we don't set boundaries, everything starts raveling into the next, start going into the next. Even now when I teach my courses, okay, we're here for 1 hour. I might give you guys 10 minutes, but after that, this is cut off. We'll talk whatever we didn't get to in this session, shoot me an email. We'll talk about it in the next session. But we have to start, and that's with time management too. That's another thing. That's funny because
That's a big one.
I just created a course on boundaries and time management that I'm going to teach later on this year.
Okay.
Because, a lot of times we don't set our boundaries, we don't do our time management. And you brought up a great thing, Miss Ellie, speaking about in the morning, how you set the tone for your morning. That's something I spoke about. Writing down things the night before that you have to accomplish the next day, putting them in categories. What's very important that needs to be done on this day, what is secondary, and what can kind of, break up into, smaller pieces throughout the week. That
Right.
way you can better balance yourself. A lot of times people like, Nina, how do you do it? Oh, I set boundaries. I do. I set boundaries.
Yeah, and I feel like the same thing. You definitely have to set boundaries, but I think work-life balance overall, like there's really no work-life balance because um like you said, you're taking home, you're going home, you're answering phone calls, emails. It kind of doesn't stop. So you do have to be intentional and have intention and about setting scheduling and time management and things like that with the family days particularly or times particularly for certain activities. But I believe like something always comes up. Something can always come up. So it's like, somebody can ask you, call you about something pertaining to work and you're with the family. Uh, you know, I'm in real estate. Real estate does not sleep. And so I had to find that out um, at certain times. Taxes, real estate does not sleep. So people can call you at all hours or all times, for certain things, home, basically deadlines and agreements and stuff like that, just to or people even, it's a lot going on in real estate, but real estate doesn't sleep. So I feel like in no matter what job you do, even if you're a stay at home mom, like you work from home, you own your own business, you're still gonna have stuff that happens outside that's gonna get in. Now, I do like to spend time with my family, first and foremost, but I have to, it's just like no work life balance for me. I think it's, if I told the story that I could keep up with just every Wednesday or every day at 9 a.m. or every day at the I would be like, well, we had to switch this here or we had to switch this. Work life balance is just like keeping that value. That's what it is to me. Keeping that value there where it needs to be, communication as far as, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to do this, baby, but you know, I didn't forget about this, or I'm gonna be at this game, I'm gonna be at this sports event, but you know, it's just all these things that or you're bogged down, you're studying maybe for something else, or you have a client that it's just I don't think there's no work life balance, like and to say that I did, or, I believe that, I would, be lying to myself because even 9 to 5 was when I was at a 9 to 5 and in corporate, that's a whole nother story. You still don't have work life balance as strict as your schedule is because it's like 9 to 5. You're doing this. I remember my schedule was before I left work. My schedule was I had to be to work at 10 a.m. So I was working 10 to 6, but before that, um, let's say this was the summertime, because school, my son started school around 8. So if I had to be to work at 10, I gotta get up, get him ready, get out, try to get breakfast and do all of these things. So I'm multitasking all the time. So I'm doing all these things to get him out. Now, and get him out, get to work, make hope the train is not acting crazy in New York City, and then get to work, and then rush back and get him, or he's going to the after school. I gotta get home, cook, do all of that. So it's like there is no, and then I can't balance that because it is what it is. I have to do this, and then now I have to cook. Then I have maybe an hour. I gotta go to sleep because I gotta get up. Now, when and don't even the summertime, I had to get him to camp all the way on the other side, get back, get up even earlier. It was like it was just like overwhelming. So when you work in your own, let's just say what everybody else experienced, the pandemic. Oh my God, the pandemic. Now you got to get your own child up, keep your own child all day doing schoolwork, and then you're working from home, or the essential workers, some of them, they have actually had to go out and come back, and it's just like work life balance is there. You try as much as possible to make it work the way that you want it to work, as hard as possible, but it's not there. Like, it's just no work life balance for me. So I don't really think that, I think we could keep our tradition, our values and our traditions, and be honest with the kids as far as, like, we're definitely doing, we're going to do this, because you always want to keep your family, your husband, the same thing. You don't want to just push him out of things because your husband, your man, your partner, your spouse, however you want to say it, for single relationship, married people. But you always want to keep those things included. But as far as like every week, every day thing, I wish I could do that, like, and really have that schedule. Every day at this time we're gonna do this, or every week this time on a diet I'm gonna do this. I don't think that really becomes realistic after a while, and depending on who you are, but unless, because I see people with their, they have their phone, all day, and maybe by time, and if you could do that, if you like really disciplined, then maybe you could do it. Or you don't have a family also to include in your whole schedule, then you can probably do it. But for me, I think work life
Let me
balance
jump
is
in for a second. And I do agree with you when you say dependent on who you are. And I do want to piggyback off what Coach Nina said about Saturdays. Anyone that knows me, I feel like some things you just have to choose certain things. And I choose certain things to keep my family grounded. Right. I feel like at some point you have to reset because money's going to be there. Those jobs are going to be there. But family out of it for a second. Your mental health has
Mm-hmm.
to be okay, because if your mental health is not okay, you can't help anybody.
Right.
You can't help your family, you can't help your husband, you can't help yourself, and you can't help your job or whatever it is that you're doing. But for me, I keep something called a Sabbath. It starts from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Everyone in my life knows that don't call my phone, don't text me. And
Yeah,
if you
he is
text me,
not.
I'm not going to be Charlotte.
He is
I will
not answering.
respond until my Sabbath is over. And that's when we read our Bible and we,
Yeah, because it's some days I'm like, oh God, it's Friday. We because I'm used to. I'm like, it's Friday. Oh, she's busy.
yeah, so I don't answer
No
emails.
phone
I
outside.
don't answer phones. I don't even watch TV. That's when we get in our Bibles, my husband and we just do what we do, because after that, sun goes down on Saturday, we're back to our normal thing again. And here comes life rushing back, and even after that, some days I have to say to my husband, listen, stop working, put it down, because sometimes we have to remind each other, stop working, put it down. Let's just have a moment. Yes, like I said, working is very important.
It's so much that you
It
don't
is.
realize it.
It is so
You
much.
don't realize
But I feel like we still have to find that balance.
it. Yeah.
And I do try to do family time once in a while because again, sometimes that can disappear. Even though my daughter is older now, I still want to, have that time, you know. So I don't have any young children in the home, so it makes it a little bit easier for me. I know, Shawnee, you have a grandbaby, and so do you, Nina. So it's kind of hard for you guys because I know how that can get. It gets very hectic. I'm not blessed with that yet, you know, and so I know sometimes work-life balance may look different for everyone, you
Right.
know, but I feel like finding that time to balance and get right mentally, because as women alone, even though we are not the providers and we are not the leaders, we do so much.
Right.
We do a lot, you know, and after a while, yes, a lot of us are strong, but compared to the man, we are the weaker vessel. So sometimes that becomes very overwhelming for us, and to bring it back to where even though my husband has his role and I have mine, some days I have to say, I need help, you know? And that's where that communication comes in. And he's like, okay, sit down for a second. What do you need me to do? Things that he doesn't normally do, he'll step in and he'll do them. He'll say, maybe you don't even have to cook today. You know, I'll take care of it. I'll order out. He won't cook, but I'll order something. You don't have to cook today. And just that little bit, takes a lot off of us. Well, I know I'm
Yeah,
smiling
as
from ear to
women, I
ear.
think we are overwhelmed a lot. A lot of us are overwhelmed just by, the speed, how everything goes so fast. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like we don't take time to, just sit back and relax. That's why I said these discussions are definitely needed because, everybody's out there trying to be this or do that, and nobody is sitting back really saying, okay, we need a break from this, or just we go, women go get their nails done and their toes done and need a massage. And that's one thing, but mentally your brain needs a break.
Mm-hmm.
Our
Mm-hmm.
brains are working overtime, so we
That's
need to
true.
really get into understanding, like we
And
really
we
have
can teach
to
each
look
other.
at it
We
as if
can learn.
we are retuning and recharging our bodies, and
And we
our
can learn
brains.
from each other. Like I can learn from you. I can learn from you. Like what are some things
Yeah,
that you do that I can incorporate in my
I'm
day-to-day
learning
life?
right now from both of you.
Yeah. Yeah, Charlene, because you're always ripping and working and running. So sometimes you just need to,
I
even
mean,
if it's
no, I
just
used
an
to,
hour.
but I learned. Trust me, I learned that it's not about working yourself to the bone or working harder. I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. I make sure what I do makes sense, and I make sure it's productive activities, because
Right.
I'm not going to, you know, jeopardize my body, my health,
That's how I
and be
was.
stressed out for nobody. I feel like when it comes down to, when you get older, you start to see those things, blood pressure, diabetes in black prevalent in black families, and all these things related to the food we eat, and the activities we engage in. So I just noticed, yeah, we need to, as women, you know do what we got to do for ourselves, but
Mm-hmm.
we also have to take care of ourselves, because
Mm-hmm.
especially what we're talking about, marriages, that person, has to take care of themselves, and we're putting ourselves together, but you still have to, that's a whole nother story too. Individually take care of yourself, even
You have
for
to.
your spouse. You even sometimes find yourself taking care of your partner and your mate just because of these
Forget
things
about
now.
yourself.
So no,
And
don't
forget
work yourself to the bone, and just, I used to do that. I used to do that And that's another conversation. I used to do that at work. I used to do that, all the time. And in the corporate scene at work, law firms and financial offices, I used to work myself out. Like, okay, I got it. I'll do it.
The same
I
thing with
don't
me. The same thing.
no,
The same thing
don't
with
put
me.
all of that on me because I don't even think that's right now. So I may do things, you may see me, but trust me, I'm working smarter, not harder, because I feel like
Right.
my thing is my thing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's not for you to judge what I'm doing. Like if you feel like if I'm working hard enough, that's not for somebody on the outside to judge. I know I'm working hard enough, but I feel like
I work too hard. I have
it's
to
many
remind
people
myself.
that work themselves, yeah, to the bone. And I feel like we can do whatever we want. Things are put out there. We have artificial intelligence. That's another conversation. So many people being let off. I was telling people that they was going to be being let off for almost 3 years now, telling people that artificial intelligence is coming. I got robots in my supermarket doing work, and I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, I think I took a picture and I posted it on on Facebook. I think this was 2 years ago or something. I'm like, we have actual robots looking around the store. I gotta share this because I see a lot all the time. And if you're not a part of it, in knowing certain things that's going on, you will be working hard and left to the to you know fully understand it on your own, and then have to work hard to even get to the understanding. So no, I like to help people in my businesses. All my businesses are basically helping, business credit, real estate, tax. It is people making decisions in their life, and I like that, and I like that you gotta want to be a client. You have to want your life to be better, to work with me, because I'm not gonna pull your teeth. You're gonna come to me, and you know I'm gonna make sure you have everything that you need as a client and overboard. That gives me a chance to go overboard for my clients, but they're not breaking my back.
Yeah, I work, I have to remind myself not to rip and run. Because if I don't, I will do it every single day. My body and my mind feel like I constantly have to work, you know? And that's what I have to remind myself, slow down. Sometimes we don't mean to do it, but I have to catch myself like, hey, Telly, slow down today. You're
Sometimes
doing too
we feel like
Yeah, that's
sometimes we feel like if we're not moving and doing something, we're being
much.
lazy. Or
That's
we're
right.
me.
not doing on top of things. There's
That's
something
me.
we always like. There's something you could be doing, and
Yeah,
that's not always the
And
case.
then half of those people
that's
that are
me.
watching don't give people the credit. I've seen some people working very hard and nobody gives you the credit that you deserve. So it's like, like, mm-mm. The people that deserve your attention, the people that deserve your expertise. Because I mean, even if I wasn't on social media, guess what I would be doing? Tax, real estate, credit, the same exact thing. So I know social media is here, it makes us connect in a certain way, but that's what I was trained in. That's what I learned. That's what I went to school for.
Right.
So I feel like, my degree in my other courses and everything else, I would be doing the same exact thing. Believe it or not, I would be doing the same exact thing. I know people who looked at other people's work and said, I'm gonna do this on social media. No, I actually went to school for that. I started even as a paralegal, legal documents. I went to school, my first degree, legal. So if you don't want to accept a person, like when I see other people, I'm like, wow, that person is really smart, and they don't. Maybe it's something else with the brand or something like that. I'm not even gonna get into it, but I see a lot of smart people that's overworking themselves.
That's true. I feel like a lot of us overwork ourselves, and that's just life. Because growing up, I don't have a lot of family that had their own businesses. I've seen my mother overwork herself. I've seen my grandmother overwork herself. So that came on to me. That's something I've learned. Work, work, work. If you don't work, you don't get ahead. And in this day and time, things have changed. So a lot of us don't have to go that 9 to 5 route anymore. You know, a lot of us has changed um the curses, some may call it. You know, we started our own businesses. You know, we stepped out on faith. We're just making money other than clocking in, but we're still working for ourselves. You know, and sometimes I'm okay with somebody telling me to slow down. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes my daughter say, Mom, sit down for a second.
Yeah. Take a
My
minute.
husband may say, like,
Take a
babe,
breather.
are you okay? Sit
Take a
down.
breather. Yeah, because you
You know,
actually,
so sometimes we need
putting your health in jeopardy. When you do that, you're
sometimes
putting
we
your
need to
health
be
in jeopardy.
reminded, you know, because that's just how we are, especially if we are hardworking women. We're running the office, we're running this, we're running that. Then we come home, that's a whole nother job,
Right.
you know?
That's a lot.
And
That
a
is
lot
a
of
lot
people,
too. It
yeah,
is.
it is a lot. Dealing with the children, keeping your house clean. I'll fold my laundry and leave it in a bin for like a day or two or three or four. Because I'm like, I need to fold these clothes. Because I have to find that time,
Right.
you know, and it's not easy all the time. So I try to just communicate with my husband, and that's the best thing, and just find what keeps my family and I grounded. And that's what works for me. So
Got it.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I just want to say, if you've been watching up to this point, I am also the author of The Millionaire's Credit Secrets, my book. I'm going to actually put the link in this video. If you want to get this book, it has all the information about credit repair from beginning to end to a 750 plus credit score. So all of those things that you may have wanted to know about credit, it's all in this book. I took everything over the years and put it into this book, and I use it myself, these skills. And you know this book just has gems that I know a lot of people don't share with you. So if you have bad credit, you want to fix it, you need this book. If you don't know about credit, you need this book. If you are stuck anywhere with your credit, then you need this book. Actually, let me show you the book. So this is Millionaire's Credit Secrets. Okay. So this book, it is 187 pages of credit repair information. So the link is going to be in the bottom in the description, and you know you will get an autographed copy of this book. You're going to get it autographed. Um, so yeah,
And
let's
since, can I
continue.
say
We have
something?
about 25 minutes left in this discussion, and I think we are talking about a lot. We're definitely going topic to topic, and definitely getting a lot of information out there. And it's kind of hard to stay on one thing when you're talking about
It
relationships.
is. It is.
Goes
Um,
into other.
before we move into the next topic, Charlene, if you'll just allow me to say this, I'm also author of a children's book. I was accepted on Amazon. The book is on Amazon. It's My Mommy, My Daddy, and Me, and it's about a child mimicking her dad, wanting to be like her mom, and mimicking everything that her dad do. So that book is on Amazon now, and it's called My Mommy, My Daddy, and Me. So if you guys have small children, very colorful book. I think you guys will love the book. You can also go and visit Amazon and purchase it. My Mommy, My Daddy, and Me, and the book is amazing. Thanks,
So
Charlene.
support these beautiful women entrepreneurs. Nina, do you have anything that you're working on right now? You want to tell or give?
Yes, I'm also an author. I am a co-author of 5 different books. One of them
Mm.
is I Told the Storm, which speaks about the storm that I went through with my daughter. I'm also a author part of a devotional where I wrote different poems about, things, reflections in my life. I'm
Mm.
also the author of my chapter in the book is called The 12 Laws of Enriching Your Life, because the name of my brand is Enrich Your Life LLC. And I also have Bloodstained Love, where I co-authored with a few other women about speaking about things that we've been through, sexual abuse, sexual trauma, things like that. So am also the author, and you can find me on social media at Coach Nina Monica. I also do go. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. I do goal setting classes. And like I said, I also host Bible studies and prayer groups. So, yeah, you can find me on TikTok as Coach Nina Monica. I am on, I am also on Instagram as Enrich Your Life LLC. Facebook is Coach Nina Monica. So either Coach Nina Monica or Enrich Your Life LLC is where you can find me.
Okay, so for the last 20 minutes that we have here, we are just going to basically, express what would you tell a young woman that is growing into womanhood? What is one thing, or what are the most important things you would tell a young woman about relationships in 2026, or getting into a relationship?
I'll start. The first thing I want to say is, value yourself. You have to value yourself. You can't, no matter what the world tells you is okay, don't give yourself to everyone that you meet. Do not allow people to abuse you emotionally, mentally, you know, even if whatever type of abuse that you face, sometimes it's hard for people to speak up, but it's okay to try to find someone and be heard. Don't carry certain things with you. You know, don't allow anyone to just treat you any type of way. Because there's a lot of things that I've been through in life, I look back and I said, I shouldn't have allowed that. We have to understand that we have to take care of us. You know, don't allow anyone to determine what your standard of beauty should look like. You don't have to go do things to yourself, enhance yourself. And I'm speaking on this because it took me years to understand that I was beautiful how I am. I felt like I needed to add certain things to myself until I got to a certain age that I had to understand no matter what I did to myself, at the end of the day, when I took all that off, I had to look at me. You have to be happy with who you are at the end of the day. And it took me a very, very long time to accept that, because a lot of the times we do these things and we fall in love with that person. And then we really don't love or like who we truly are. So when making decisions, always try to choose the right decisions. Don't go with what the world is going with. It's okay to take correction. It's okay to learn from other people's mistakes. You don't have to go through something to learn from it. When you see your friends or a lot of people go through things, try to learn from that. And you don't always have to follow the crowd, you know. And the biggest
Yeah, I
thing,
think people follow a lot.
yeah, and the biggest thing is search out your friends. Search out your friends, because you will do things in life that you will regret just by the company that you keep.
Yeah, so I'm gonna add to that, and I would basically say, come back to yourself. So if you are a young woman and you're getting into a relationship, I would say make sure that you think of yourself first so that you can actually bring something that's worth something. So the partner that you're seeking out, they can see that you are worth something. So, if you are working on your education, do that. If you want a degree, get the degree. Don't let no one take you from bettering yourself and putting more opportunities in your in your horizon, because I feel like it's certain things that I could have followed, let's just say, in the area I was in, and dealing with some of the people I was dealing with. I felt like I could have followed some things, and thank God that I did not follow these people and individuals and groups, or however you see it. I didn't follow these people to, not go and get a degree. I didn't follow these people to go and experience things I wanted to experience. I didn't follow these people when it came to building myself up. Everybody is not going to like that. Everybody is not going to like you for you being who you are, but does that matter? That doesn't even matter, because you probably won't be with these people 20 years from now, 10 years from now. You won't be with these same people. You'll probably be in a new area. You'll be around new groups of people. You'll have a new profession. You'll have new ideas. You'll have new things that you can experience. And these people that looked at you whatever way, they won't matter. Yeah, you know them, you know of them, you know those people. But if you follow those people, you probably won't go and get your dream job. You probably won't start your business. You probably won't do these things. And these things are going to build up who you are and who you can be. And so a relationship needs, like, it needs air to breathe. It needs, so you need to be able to breathe your good air into some more good air, and come together. So, or it's going to be a dead relationship, because you're going to be miserable because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and you're going to be looking for him, and vice versa. If he's that way, you'll figure that out soon. But as far as for yourself, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be, upset. You're probably going to be stressing yourself out, trying to rush everything, working yourself to the bone because you have nothing to start on, no foundation, no this or that, and it's hard for a person to even start to learn, let's just say, anything when you feel like that. This is how some people go into depression and things like this. Depression is from within. I mean, you could get depressed from outer forces, but depression is what you feel. Depression is what is a person thinking, and a person is coming from. What's coming from a person, I should say. But so those things, don't push yourself into a relationship that's a dead end, because truthfully, I think that's why, be value yourself, and value the things that you want in life, and continue on that path so that you can do what you really want to do, because you really want, more than just to be miserable just because you followed the crowd, because people are following the crowd in certain places and groups and areas, and it's like everybody's doing this, everybody's doing that. Like, who are you individually? What is your identity? I don't care what happens on, this area, on that area. Who are you? Because that's who's going to show up in this relationship.
Absolutely. And just to wrap it up with you guys and everyone who's listening, if I had to tell any of the young ladies I work with, any of the young ladies in my circle, in my family, I would tell them absolutely put God first. Build your relationship with God, connect with God before you make a decision about anything else. Go to God about what to wear, what to eat, who you should be talking to, every relationship, every financial decision. Put God first before you put anything else. I see God on the smallest things all the way up to the larger decisions, because you allow him to be the first thing in everything, I promise you everything else will fall in line. The second thing I'm going to tell you, put you after that. God, and then put you. Make sure you invest into yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially. Make sure you are happy with yourself first, because if you're not happy with you, you can't be happy for anyone else. And third of all, never settle. Never settle. You don't deserve the bottom barrel anything. Never settle. Get what you want, get what you deserve, and let God lead you to that.
And I think that is it. I think a lot came out of this conversation tonight, and this is the direction. This is what we needed. So we are going to. I think I'm gonna do something like this. We're gonna try to fit it in and do something, because I think this is what needs to be done. So thank you so much, Coach Nina and Telly CEO, for joining me. Charlene Randall Financial. I will have more videos coming up, as you know. Thank you so much for joining me, and everyone have a great night.
And let me just say one thing. I definitely enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
I definitely, if you guys want to keep in touch with me, my name is Telly CEO on Facebook as well as YouTube. I do a lot of hair commentary. I give you everyday simple hairstyles that you can do on your own, because sometimes we just don't have it all the time to go to the salons to get our hair done. So if you're looking for easy styles that you want to do on your own, just go ahead and follow me on YouTube at Telly_CEO. It's spelled just like you see here. And you can do the same on Facebook. And again, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Nice
Okay, good night.
meeting you. Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye bye.